Are you back at work? If you work in an office, are your cubicles 6 feet apart? Are hand sanitizers at every corner? These are some of the protocols now that the work from home order has been lifted and people are back on the job. I'm Kalila Reynolds and this is Money Moves JA, brought to you in partnership with Exim Bank's Business Advisory Service. Keep watching. I have some guidelines for safety at your place of business. I'm joined by environmental health specialist at the Institute of Health, Keron Crossman Johnson. All right, Keron, nice to have you on.
Nice to be on.
So tell me, so businesses are now, or people are now back at work since June 1. The work from home order has been lifted. And as we go forward, more and more will be reopening, especially as the tourism industry begins gradually reopening. I know you there at the Ministry of Health have been crafting some guidelines for businesses to reopen. How do you reopen? How do you manage your customers? How do you manage your personnel, your staff? So walk me through some of those guidelines.
There is a general guideline that set of guidelines, that would cover most of these businesses, but there are also specific guidelines based on the nature of the businesses, right? So, but what we focus on are social distancing, hand hygiene, ensuring that persons either wash their hands with soap and water, which is the preferred way of getting rid of dirt and germs on your hands, or use in 62% an alcohol sanitizer of at least 62% alcohol content for hand hygiene, and this should be done frequently. And the wearing of masks, avoid touching the eyes, nose, and mouth, staying at home when they're sick, and ensuring that you have enough educational material around, ensuring that you have the proper protocols in place so that cleaning and disinfection can be done in the correct manner so that we can get rid of any germs that may exist, especially the COVID.
Mm-hmm. So some of the regular things that we've been seeing, the regular recommendations for all of us that we should be doing and should continue to do. But there are some specific guidelines for the workplace as well. I saw one regarding ventilation, as I know the AC can be an issue. Tell me about that one.
Right, so for the air conditioning unit, because you want to ensure that the facility is adequately ventilated, and you don't want to have a situation where you have conditions within the building that will facilitate the growth of the organism and the multiplication of it, just in case it gets into the building. So there are some specifications. So one of the things that you want to do is to make sure that you use natural ventilation as much as possible so that you can have very good airflow within the building. However, if you're unable to use the natural ventilation and you're using air conditioning system, we ask that they be checked to make sure that they are in good working condition, and also that you have a very good maintenance program in place that is, in tandem with what the manufacturer would have recommended. And we also ask for the air conditioning systems to be working. You can retrofit your air conditioning system based on the kind of facility that you have and the dependence on the air conditioning system. So if you have a facility that operates for long periods and you're dependent on air conditioning a lot and you have quite a few persons within the facility, then we recommend that the filtration system in the air conditioning system be retrofitted using like a MERV 13 grade filter or a grade that is compatible to your air conditioning system that would be close in terms of effectiveness to the MERV 13 filter.
Here's something that you might say is a dumb question. I don't know. Can you catch COVID-19 in a pool? And I ask because I've seen in the recommendations where concerns recreational facilities, particularly, I guess, those ones in the tourism industry that are now looking to reopen. Many of them have pools, and there are specifications for dealing with the pool as well.
Okay, you can, but that is if the disinfection system in the pool is not effective. Because, pools, we have standards that are used to determine whether or not your pool is disinfected adequately. So if those standards are being followed, then and you're observing your social distancing, then it should be relatively safe. And you don't have overcrowding inside of the pool, because the disinfectant content in the water would have gotten rid of the virus.
And this would be your regular disinfectant, the same way that you normally sanitize your pool?
No. You'd have, because considering that this is a body of water that people would enter with their entire bodies, then you'd want to have a quantity of disinfectant within that water that would be greater than you would use in your drinking water per se, or for regular disinfectant.
No, but I mean, because people clean their pools regularly, especially at resorts, you always have you come out, you smell like chlorine. So would it just be the regular type of cleaning, or is there some special things you need to do?
Yes, the regular disinfection, not the cleaning. Okay, so let's make this a little bit clear. So the cleaning of the pool itself would be done without the water in it, right? But then when the water is in the pool, then they would remove whatever debris might be on top of the water, but they need to add the chlorine to it in order for them to have the water itself purified. So if it is done according to the regular standards, it would be okay.
Okay, so the main difference would be in ensuring the physical distancing in the pool.
Right. No overcrowding.
Yeah. So talk to me about restaurants, because that's another place that people regularly convene, and you have food safety, health safety standards there as well.
Okay, so for the restaurants, regular food safety standards would be okay. The additional things that we'd be asking for is that you have, just like with the other establishments, that you have your hand hygiene practices, and you have your social distancing measures in place. And the same thing if you have air conditioning, and for the high touch areas, you make sure that you have them cleaned regularly. One thing that for now, nobody's allowed to be sitting in a restaurant to dine.
Oh, see, I was just going to ask you that if dine-in service is now allowed. So no, not yet.
It's not allowed as yet, but the protocols and the guidelines for that to be allowed are currently almost completed.
Oh.
So there are considerations, yes, for dining.
Okay. What about manufacturing places? So you might have people on assembly lines or people working together to manufacture something. What are the requirements there?
Well, again, same social distancing measures would have to be in place, and you'd have to stagger, like if you have a workplace that is manufacturing a certain quantity of goods, you may have to reduce, the quantity that's required based on the workforce that is allowed within that space, because there's spacing requirements that must be adhered to. There are spacing requirements that must be adhered to.
I notice in some supermarkets, they've been erecting these barriers between, like these plexiglass looking barriers between the cashier and the customer. Is that something that could be carried over to maybe a manufacturing setting too? Is that practical?
Yes, if it's appropriate, yes, it's okay for that to be used, because the aim is really to keep, and it is also recommended for BPOs. So if you can't keep the 6 feet distancing, then you would have to put up a physical barrier, to prevent the organism from getting from one person to another.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what the supermarkets have done. So if you notice, the ones that have done it properly, they've erected the barrier at a height that most persons would not be able to, be above that height.
Right.
Direct contact with the cashier would not be there, you know, so there would be some amount of prevention right there.
I saw another recommendation that said discourage the use of personal fans, as in cooling fans. Let me read it. Discourage the use of pedestal fan or hard-mounted fans which oscillate from one worker directly to another. Personal cooling fans should be removed from the workplace to reduce potential spread.
Right. So what would happen if you have a personal fan and you happen to cough and you're not protected? Then what that will do is just push the organism from your space right into somebody else's space based on the direction that the wind is aimed. Based on that. Yes.
I see. What about when we're having meetings? Because we're coming back to the office now. A lot of people have been doing during stay at home or work at home. We've been doing Zoom meetings like you and I are doing now. But I imagine once we're back at the office, there will be face-to-face meetings again. What's the recommendation there? Or should we just stick to Zoom at our individual desks?
Yes, and ensure that the social distance, the physical distancing and the social distancing measures are in place. So if you have, like, for instance, for the Ministry of Health, where we have our conference rooms, you know, they're so arranged that you have the 6 feet distancing in place at all times. So, and you make sure that the air conditioning system is working properly. You have your cleaning and sanitizing. And disinfecting. So one of the things that we need to do, though, is if we're having a meeting and there's a group that would have been finished, the area needs to be properly cleaned and disinfected after that group is finished, before another group uses the same facility. So you have to ensure that your meeting rooms have furnishing and equipment that are cleanable.
So stuff like the fabric-based chairs, if you are able to replace them, you want to replace them. I'm sitting in a fabric chair right now. That one look like fabric that you're on, though.
No, it's not.
It's not?
No. No, it's not.
But if I spray Lysol on this chair, is that good enough? Does that work?
Well, it works, but it's not very effective, because what happens, you know, is that the chair itself, because of the kind of surface that's on it, the organism and also dirt can just seep down into the fabric, and when you disinfect, you may not be able to. The disinfectant may not reach all the organisms that could possibly be present.
Oh, so best thing, try not to sit in somebody, just have your own chair. Don't sit in somebody else's chair.
Right.
When you come to the meeting, bring your own chair too.
Well, if it's not high risk, you know, but if you want to just make sure that you're doing everything within everything that is possible, then that's one of the considerations that you may have to.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Keron. You've given us much to think about and to do.
You are welcome.
All the best to you.
That's it for this episode of Money Moves JA, brought to you in partnership with Exim Bank's Business Advisory Service. Check out their website, eximbankja.com, and follow them on social media at eximbankja. If this information has helped you in any way today, please spread the news and share with a friend. Our goal is to get to 50,000 subscribers this year. So like this video so that YouTube shows it to more people. Subscribe to this channel and turn on those post notifications. I'm Kalila Reynolds. Stay safe.